everybody. Welcome back to the Vibrant Cat Eye podcast. I'm Elena, aka the Vibrant Cat Eye. I'm here with psychic and astrologer Denise Seigel. I've been following Denise since 2008.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember back in 2008 I was googling psychic and astrology. You were the first person, or you were the first link for your. I think it was not GeoCities. What was it? Blogspot. I
Yeah,
think.
it was I think it was oh, my brain just had a brain fart. It was just a regular, I can't think of it.
It was one of the main blog
Yeah,
plat or
yeah,
yeah, it
but it
was
was a blog platform, yeah.
it was
Um
like the
no,
the
I can't
dawn
think
of
of it.
blogging, I think, back in
Yeah,
2008. Oh my gosh, it was weird. I was just telling Denise guys that I was back, I discovered her when I was back in college when I was getting
WordPress. It was WordPress.
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 Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
WordPress,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. And Denise, if you want to introduce yourself as well, tell us about what you do and everything.
Well, as you know, I
Yes.
started out as a psychic back in the
Mm-hmm.
early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then learned astrology working as a psychic because I had met a bunch of friends, people that were astrologers, and they kind of turned me on to astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned out I kind of took to it really easily, and I started learning from those guys, and I started taking classes at the Kell Writer Institute, and then pretty immediately started using it in the readings I was giving, and then I just kind of from there, it
Oh.
went on. But
Mm-hmm.
as you know, because we're this podcast is also about like basically creativity and
Mm-hmm.
writing, and sounds like it's also about films.
Yes, yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
I I actually was, I was in a band. I also
Mm-hmm.
I'm a painter, and I started writing after my band kind of broke up.
Mm-hmm.
I used to write songs, but then I started writing stories, and I started writing novels, and that led me
Mm-hmm.
to start writing screenplays
Mm-hmm.
because I got an agent or a
Oh wow.
manager in Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
who pushed me to do that, and that's how I started writing for film and TV. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. What's your favorite genre of film and TV?
I'm 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 not good at this, but I like comedy a lot.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm really not funny though, so I can't do that. But I science fiction is kind of what I wrote, a science fiction uh, script basically that was a television script, and it
Mhm.
got me a deal with Fox, and that then they tried to get me
Wow.
to write a cop show, which was really weird because I didn't watch cop shows. So I was like,
Interesting.
okay, that didn't really
Wow.
work out. Yeah, it was kind of a mess. Yeah, so then my brother, like a few years ago, started making like indie films in Chicago,
Wow. Uh-huh.
and he managed to get one film to the place where he actually got distribution, pretty
Mm-hmm.
decent distribution. But the film was really good, like the first 15 minutes, and then it kind of fell apart. I'm like, you know what? I'll write you a script. So
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a script for him, and he
Wow.
just made the film, and
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to, he's going to put that out. So it just got finished. So that's kind of wild.
Amazing. Well,
It's
good
not,
luck.
it's,
Yeah.
it's kind of like low budgety, but
Of
it was,
course.
but it's cool that he did that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, any amount of like filmmaking, even if you're just like filming like like a small indie film in your basement, just because I'm in a basement right now
Right.
and everything, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's fun. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
it's an outlet, and it's one of
Yeah.
the things I love about movies and TV shows, because I was telling Denise, you guys, like, before the podcast started, that's what I originally wanted to go into, was screenwriting and directing and filmmaking and everything. But right now it's not just that it's hard to get into the industry. It's just like right now it's not like the best way to like both make a living, get all the things,
Well,
to
yeah,
it's
you basically have to live it. I mean, the only reason I ended up in getting involved in it, that
yeah.
wasn't my aim, was because I was
Hmm.
living in LA for
Yeah.
so long,
Hmm.
basically, and I knew so many people in it. And
Hmm.
then because I was writing and had some traction with the first novel I wrote,
Yeah.
that got somebody interested. It was just, it's a lot of that, it's
Hmm.
a lot of like just going to meeting people and stuff like that. That's 99% of it, really, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part of the reason why I'd moved to New York City as well, because I had heard
Right, or New York. Yeah, you can live in
yeah,
New York.
yeah, yeah, when I was living in New York, this was about January was it 2013 through half of 2014, I took some acting and writing classes there. There's
Yeah.
this company called I think Gotham something. I forgot the name of it. It's been so long, but yeah, they had screenwriting classes, they had film classes, and I learned a lot from the teachers that were there as well, because we all actually like we wrote some scripts, and then we would do kind of like a table read and read it back and forth, and it I mean, there was some hilarious results there. Just
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
hearing like people speak the dialogue you wrote right back to
Yeah,
you,
it's
and
really interesting. I did that for
yeah.
like when I wrote the novel, then I got like Harcourt was kind of interested and I
Hmm.
got an agent, and then that didn't work out, and then I got this other a literary manager. She was
Hmm.
wanting me because she was mostly involved in film and television to write for
Hmm.
that. So I took some classes, and
Hmm.
I started writing plays because you could kind of workshop those. And there's like North
Yeah.
Hollywood had a bunch of little tiny places where you could make
Hmm.
it like write a short play and have people, be produced, and actors would say your
Oh.
lines back, right? It was
Hmm.
really interesting because, things would come out of that you didn't even expect, like the way the actor interpreted it. It was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. I thought it was really fun having that kind of interaction. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is that, each actor isn't gonna like, I guess it's not just say the line, but they're not gonna act out the line the same way that,
That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
everybody has their own interpretation and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was really interesting to watch. I mean, I had done theater when I was a kid, I had done a
Hmm.
lot of theater,
Hmm.
um, but you know, but I didn't really think about it that way as somebody it's your words,
Hmm.
somebody else speaking them.
Yeah.
Um, it was pretty interesting. Yeah, it was
That
fun.
is that's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you just joining on the live, everybody welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, so it's part of what I part of what this podcast is about is and what I do is so I'm an intuitive. I specialize in color divination and tarot and oracle readings and stuff, and I have part of the reason I started this Substack. And actually, Denise, this is actually how you are the reason I actually started a Substack, is
That's
because
cool.
on YouTube you were saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm on Substack. If you want to, see me over there."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. What's the Substack platform?" And so I started, exploring it and everything. And it fits. Like this
Yeah,
is
it's
I
a
feel
great platform, I think. It's
yeah
really good for
I
creative
feel
people. Yeah, it's really good.
absolutely. And it's and so thank you for putting that out into the world, because it probably like I may have discovered it, but it would have
Yeah,
been
you
like
probably would have.
later on or something.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But part of what I do on this podcast, whether it's solo or with a guest, is we discuss the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of film or movies, of whatever we choose. And so what I mean by that is we go and we delve deep into the deepest levels of the storytelling aspect, and unearth like why, like, in other words, it's like, why does this film exist? Like, not just not just because the filmmakers made it or the people wrote it, but like, what is the lesson? What are some of the lessons that humanity needs to learn right now? And also, like, this is also a reason why sometimes popular films, same with music, like there's certain songs, there's certain movies that come back, after maybe 30 years or 50 years or
Right.
something, that
That
people,
resonance. Yeah.
yeah, that have resonance, that either because something similar is happening today, or it has its time. It's like sometimes, like, when certain films or movies or TV shows are made, they don't always resonate, at the time that they're made, but they see their day, or they
Right.
see.
Harold and Maude. Did
Yeah,
you ever
Harold and
see
Maude.
Harold and Maude? Oh,
I
it's such a good
did.
film. I love that
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
and what was the direct? I'm really spacing like the director's name of Harold and Maude and Being There, because I remember.
Yeah. Being there, I
Yeah.
don't remember I mean, I was a kid when I watched those, so I didn't really pay
Mhm.
attention to that. But I've seen those movies, Harold and Maude, I can't count how many times I've seen that movie. Being there, I've seen
Yeah.
probably half a dozen times.
Yeah.
Um, Star Wars, I saw like half a dozen times too, probably, or maybe more.
Wow.
And The Shining is a great, really great
Yeah.
movie, which I've probably seen a million times, and that's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Um, that is one of my favorite movies too. And then Defending Your Life, which is I've seen
Which is
that. I
yeah.
own that. I bought that movie and The Shining. Those two movies I had.
Oh
I don't know where
wow.
the DVDs are. I've seen them
Yeah.
so many times. Defending Your Life is one of my favorite movies of all time because it's
Hmm.
metaphysical and it's really, really hilarious too.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so funny
Yeah.
and just really has a lot of depth to it. And he makes himself kind of an asshole, which I really like about Albert Brooks, that
Yeah.
he's kind of always the bad guy.
Yeah.
He really allowed Meryl Streep's character to be the knight in shining armor character, the amazing person, and he was kind of in her shadow, which I thought was very cool as well.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
was really yeah. I saw that film for the first time yesterday evening and everything, and I it was fun. It was like you said, it was hilarious. It's interesting because I was almost expecting his character to be a fish out of water, like right after he got
right,
hit by that bus. And
right,
he just kind of just went with the flow. He was just like, "Yeah, I got hit by a bus. I'm here now."
right.
He was just like, "I
He
don't know
just
what
went
to
with
do."
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He was
and it was
confused, but he went with it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And that was really funny because like there's you've got this city. It's interesting because there's what was it called? There's the how like psychic Sylvia Brown talked about the other side and like all these
Hmm.
different like halls and everything that existed on the other side. Like and again, like I've got my issues with her, but she was like one like the gateway psychic, into exploring, like about the other side and everything. And some of the stuff that they talk about, like the Hall of Records, the
Yeah.
Past Life Pavilion,
Yeah,
all those.
that's actually goes way before Sylvia Brown. That stuff is
Right.
really
Yeah.
old esoteric hermetic stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, the thing that's to me was always problematic about that
Hmm.
movie isn't anything about the movie, but the name
Yeah.
of the movie is
Hmm.
problematic in my opinion because when it came out in the 90s, people
Yeah.
were telling me because I was working as a psychic at the time. I was in my early 20s.
Hmm.
And I'm like, why would I see a movie called Defending Your Life? It sounds like a really bad cop movie or something. Like I
Right.
said, I don't really watch cop shows or anything. So,
Yeah.
but it turns out, the movie is really about this person trying to defend their life
Hmm.
in this on the other side so they can move up with their karma.
Yeah.
And it's not even really, so I kind of think that movie probably didn't get as much traction because people didn't know what that movie was a little bit,
Right. Yeah.
because it seemed like it was going to be because there were a bunch of movies that came out like You Can't Handle the Truth movie. I can't remember the name of that movie, but there
Right.
were always these like kind of like,
Courtroom
military,
procedure. Yeah.
yeah, procedural movies, and it's not that. But
Right.
I and so it's kind of like it took me a long time to watch it because of that,
Yeah.
because the name was so like, but then it became my favorite film. But so I just want to put it out there, if you haven't seen that movie, you should watch it because if you're
It's really
watching
good,
this,
guys.
you're gonna really like it. You're gonna love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That was and it was fun, and it's interesting because Meryl Streep has, I think she was, like, at I wouldn't say just, like, the height of her career because her whole career has been,
Right. The height.
like,
Yes.
what yeah, it has been a height
Yes.
and everything, and it's interesting because
Yeah.
I think she did that movie, the Defending Your Life a year before she did Death Becomes Her. Do you remember that film? That
Oh
had
God.
Goldie Hawn?
That's right. I forgot about that movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an Ingrid Bergman's daughter. Oh, what's her name? Isabella Rossellini.
Isabella Rossellini. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
like Isabella Ross.
she had this,
Yeah.
so like that movie, Death Becomes Her, it was almost the exact like a I would say I don't even say wouldn't say that it was the exact opposite of basically the character Meryl Streep's character and Goldie Hawn had this ongoing like frenemy feud going on. Also, what was his name? Bruce Willis was a part of it too. He was married to Meryl Streep's
Yeah.
character Madeline, and she was there. Both of them were like obsessed. Or actually, she was obsessed with being younger, and so she got this referral to this woman played by Isabella Rossellini to take this potion, which basically caused her to live forever. So essentially, her soul was trapped in her physical body for
Wow, that doesn't sound fun.
eternity. Yeah,
That would
which
be horrible, in my opinion.
oh yeah, yeah. So she's like, and she warned her. She said, Isabella Rossellini warned her. She said, "Take care of your body. You're going to be with it a long time." And of course, like it, because it was that was a dark comedy. Like,
Right.
she continued her feud with um with Helen, which who was played by Goldie Hawn, and it was like they were trying to essentially kill each other, right? And they had and so like oh it was so weird because like the body parts like they basically I think one of them I don't even know if we're allowed to say certain words because I know that this is going to be uploaded to YouTube, but basically Madeline like pewed Helen through the stomach. She had a hole there.
Oh yeah, that's
Madeline,
right. I kind of vaguely remember that. I saw it a
yeah,
long time ago. I don't remember that much about it because I saw it probably
yeah,
like more than 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But
right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, essentially, it was kind of the antithesis of
Right. It's like
defending
the
your life.
opposite. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
It's about the body and kind of like my
hmm
daughter, who's a Capricorn like you,
hmm
is really into body horror movies. I didn't even know what that
Oh yeah,
was. Do
hmm
you know?
yeah, I do. Yeah,
That might be
Clive
one of the
Barker's
first one.
films. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or one of the first ones. It's just sort of like that movie that the most recent one that won that I can't the one with Demi Moore was in it. I can't remember the name
Mhm.
of it right now. Do you remember that body horror movie where she's
Yeah.
trapped? Like there's another version of her. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, there was
It came out like
something
2 years ago or something. Yeah,
substance.
Substance.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
Substance.
that was freaky. That
She
was
loved that movie. Yeah, that's like, and that's the kind of movie she likes. So,
oh interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but she loves it, horror movies that are like about the body. I guess
Yeah.
there's, as a woman, I think it's an
hmm
interesting kind of thing about women are so, we're so sort of packaged as a body and like we're
Yeah.
so, really pigeonholed as, sort of. So
It's
I
been
think
drilled
it's
into us.
yes, and
Yeah.
drilled into us the way we look, and sort of your power as a woman is the way that your body is.
hmm
So I think it's sort of an unconscious reaction to that kind of stuff. And I thought
hmm
that's what was interesting about the substance. It kind of dealt with that head on in a
Yeah,
really weird, gory way. It
for
was really
sure.
pretty brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a film that I saw, I think a long time ago, because in the movie, I think it was Substance, there was a scene where Demi Moore was messing with a chicken or something like that. And it reminded me of this movie called Existence or something that
Mm.
came out in the 90s. Existence, I think is what it's called. If anybody knows what I'm talking about in the chat here, chime in if you want. There's basically it was like it was I think it was a Clive Barker film as well. It was another body horror film. And it was
Hmm.
something I just happened to come across like like flipping channels and
Right.
I saw this and I was just like, like I just clicked and
You
started
kept
clicking.
going, but you kept
I
going.
was
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
I'm not a big gore fan, so it's like,
same, yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Even like when I would read books about serial killers, or something, I would skip over the pictures and just. I'm more just interested in the psychology of why someone
Yeah.
would be so mentally ill,
Right,
not so
right.
much what they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but
Yeah.
everybody has their thing, right? I mean,
For
so
sure. It's funny too because that you mentioned the horror aspect because that's how it's funny because I'll also get into what's his name? There was a guy that this oh my gosh, the author of What Dreams May Come, Richard Matheson. I'll tell you about him in a
right.
second because he's one of my he's also somebody I'm working my way through his work and everything. But he was like the Stephen King of his day. But basically, his journey as a writer started off as a horror writer. He wrote several like sci-fi horror pieces. He was also
Hmm.
and this also ties into franchise that I like what was a huge fan of when I was a teenager. The Chucky series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
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 So I like back in 2004 when around the time Seed of Chucky came out, that was like I really started to, like I didn't actually like start at that point. I think it was more like 1998 when I was like 10. Like when I saw Bride of Chucky, I went back and I watched those films. And what I found interesting about those as like a horror film is, I mean, they were gory because it was basically essentially about, this serial killer that inhabited this doll body, and dolls
Right.
and I'm fascinated with the
The
idea
possession
of,
of that. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah, the
Annabelle and all that stuff. Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is, that's kind of how I started to get into horror at the time when I was, like a preteen teenager and stuff. And I found that the concept of the uncanny valley to be really interesting. And I happen to be a huge fan of Brad Dourif's work. He played Billy Bibbit in the movie, what was it? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty
and he's such a gifted character
good.
actor, and he voiced that Chucky for a long time, and then Jennifer
Huh.
Tilly, who's
Yeah. Yeah.
one of my favorite actors, she
That's
was
funny.
in,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and it felt like, like there was, I don't know, and because I usually, I don't like you, I don't like gore or anything like that, but for
Right.
some reason I felt like I've known these people or something, maybe
It's
in a
also
past
kind of
life.
kitschy too. It's a
Yeah.
little kitschy as well, the Chucky
It,
stuff. You know what I
the
mean?
kitchen,
It's
what
sort
do you
of
mean by that?
it's got a
Yeah.
kitschy thing where it's sort of like it's kind of almost funny a little bit too,
Oh
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So it
That's
maybe that's part of why you were okay with the gore because it seems kind of
oh
cartoony
yeah.
or you know what I
It
mean?
was,
I
I
don't
think
know.
the word campy. That's actually part of the
Campy,
reason.
campy, kitschy. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
similar words. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think that's part of the reason I got into it as well, is because Don Mancini, who wrote those films, and directed some of the later films, he was such a huge, movie
Mhm.
fan and everything, and was, he loved disaster films, the also the Italian, what was it called? There was the the guy that wrote Suspiria, I think. Anyways, there's an Italian director that's really famous that he really liked too, and so I found his interest in film to be really, really fun. But there's a a whole story about that. But the the point I was going to make is that I ended up like moving into more like, what do you call it, like more of the metaphysical stuff and away from the horror, because
Mhm.
there was also other things that went on that, I won't get into in this podcast, that made me like kind of transition away from horror and everything. And so,
Right.
as I got deep into like more of the metaphysical stuff, I ended up, what do you call it, my brain right now. Yeah, anyways, it just like it revealed to me a lot about, how I because I've always been pretty sensitive, like
Right.
to gore and all that. And so I mean, a lot of stuff started revealing itself to me. It's almost like I moved past that. And the reason that I brought up Richard Matheson before that is because his journey as a horror writer led him into the more metaphysical stuff, because that in the 1970s, that's when he started to write, the show, not the show, the book What Dreams May Come.
Right.
And he and Stir of Echoes and a bunch of other books. Like I said, I'm working my way through, and so he got to a point. I just bought his biography, actually, the book, and he talked in his book about how, he got kind of sick of scaring the hell out of people. And what's
Right.
interesting, yeah, and what's interesting too is Trilogy of Terror, which was,
Right.
the little
Karen
Zuni
Black.
fetish,
Yeah, the
right?
Karen
Karen
Black
Black,
movies. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the little doll running around, the
Mhm.
apartment, which also was, I think Talking Tina also was an inspiration for Don to, to write these films and everything. But anyways, it's interesting because Richard Matheson wrote that episode of that movie, of that three-part, because I think it was like a three-part story that had, like you said, Karen Black in it and everything. She played
Right, right.
three
Yeah,
different
that's kind of
characters.
what
But
she's famous for. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
Movies. Yeah.
but yeah, that's, I guess the point is that, that's how I kind of I transitioned, from, having, an interest in, that kind of horror to, going into more metaphysical stuff, and movies and TV series and everything. And yeah, so That's that's
There's not tons of
yeah,
metaphysical movies. I mean, I don't know if
right.
you ever saw the Mothman movie.
I haven't, but I
That
hear good
movie,
things.
it's, that's another movie that's a really good movie, but
Hmm.
it's not scary like the way that a normal person would want a scary movie to be. It's
Yeah.
based in a Keel book who he that's based on a true story
Oh wow.
about this uh, experience where people in basically in Pennsylvania and Ohio, that sort of that's a bridge there between the two states.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was a horrible tragedy, actually, the year I was born, where the bridge fell down.
Hmm.
But before that bridge fell down, there was a series of sightings of this giant moth creature man like
Hmm.
thing. It was flying around with red
Hmm.
glowing eyes. And the Keel, who I don't remember his first name, but he's an author. He was a
Hmm.
like a researcher into unusual phenomenon. He went
Hmm.
down to that area and he got embroiled in all of this really weird paranormal stuff, and it
Yeah.
started happening to him. And it's very subtle and much more like the real experience of being actually in a very bizarre,
Hmm.
supernatural experience like that. But
Hmm.
it's not super flashy, but it's based on a true story, and it's a really creepy, really good movie. But
Interesting.
that's another movie that nobody people didn't get it because it's not like something running around trying to stab you, and it's
Sure.
not like, you know,
It's subtle. It's like
it's
it kind
very
of creeps.
subtle. Yeah,
It's a
it has
slow burn,
uh,
right?
Richard Gere is in it,
Yeah.
and the woman who used to be on Will and Grace, I don't remember that actress,
Deborah
is the Deborah Messing. Yes, that's
Deborah
right,
Messing,
Deborah
yeah.
Messing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. It's super creepy, and it
Hmm.
kind of lingers with you. And also, what's her name? The actress who was in Ozark, who played she turned into really a baddie, the blonde
Oh,
woman.
yeah.
Um,
I know exactly who you're talking
yeah,
about. She
she's in it too. Yeah. And she's
okay.
great. But it's a really good movie. That's
Okay.
a really good creepy, great around Halloween if you want something creepy and not like
Okay.
if you're the type of person that likes to kind of get weirded out but not like, you
Right.
know, grossed out, it's a great
Yes.
movie. Yeah.
I love that. And I really love like ghost stories as well, like
Yes,
Poltergeist.
it's more like that. It's and
Yeah.
Poltergeist, yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a Steven Spielbergy type thing, where it's everything's
Yeah.
really big and it happens on a
Right.
massive scale, which is not normally how paranormal stuff works. I mean, there
Say
can
yeah.
be something. So this is way like there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in it, but it's very
Hmm.
subtle and a lot of weird threads, and it's
Hmm.
much more like having an experience yourself. So
Right.
it's excellent like that. And I actually had an experience with this moth creature. I think I've talked about it before, the black line.
I
And
think
I
so.
didn't know anything about the Mothman. Somebody told me about it years
Hmm.
later after I was recounting this and said to read this book, which I didn't read the book. I waited till the movie came out. I was
Yeah.
like, actually, this is a lot like what happened. It's so
Hmm.
similar. Just the subtleties of all the stuff that's in that movie. It's very creepy. I highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
I'll have
Yeah.
to check it out. You said it's called The Mothman?
The Mothman.
The
Mothman
Mothman?
Prophecies. The
Mothman
Mothman
Paw.
Prophecies.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those are like my favorite kinds of films where it's like if like even though I'm kind of I am transitioning out of the horror genre as a viewer and everything. I also
I like horror movies too,
I
though, but they have to
yeah,
be really good for me to
right,
like.
right.
Yeah.
I think like you were saying, like the ones that are kind of a slow burn, that are psychological and stuff, those are the
Yes, that's
ones.
the kinda like yeah, those are the
Yeah,
kind I really like. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
I don't really
exactly.
like the stabby ones so much.
Yeah.
Like Chainsaw Massacres. I'm not
Oof,
into that,
I
that's
can't
just
watch those.
grosses me out. Yeah.
Yeah, The Hills Have Eyes, like I won't go into that because it's really bad, but that is the kind of film that I am like really repulsed by, honestly.
I have
And also,
never seen it. Yeah,
yeah,
I've never seen it. Don't see it. Yeah.
don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of the, that plus there's another film that have never seen and I will never see it, partially because I have family history with the Holocaust and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. My
which is
dad's.
the human centipede is another one
I
that
don't
was
know that one.
that
I
was
don't know.
actually based off of the Josef Mengele's experiments,
Oh
on
no, that sounds
yeah,
horrifying. Wow, that's horrifying.
that's one I don't recommend, I wouldn't even recommend your daughter watch that one because it's like even
So
watching
dark.
yeah,
Is it
it's
so
very
dark?
dark. Yeah, I saw the preview of it
Mm.
and I was like I usually don't have a physical reaction to movies, just by viewing or seeing the trailer, but that was when I was like, oh no, 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 no. I was like, I'm not gonna watch that one. Yeah, and
No.
it's it's not because like I'm a prude, but it's one of those things where it's
No,
like
you can't, you know what? You only have so much
yeah.
time in life. I feel that way about, like, I used to, when I
Hmm.
would read a book, I would try to read the whole thing. And then by
Hmm.
the time I got into like my late 20s, early 30s, I'm like, I'm not going to force myself to read a book past
Yeah,
100 pages. If it doesn't grab me in the first 100 pages, you know, the same, I feel the
exactly.
same way about about movies. You only have so much time and it's going to take 2 hours of your time. It better be
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
you really enjoy on some level, or just forget about it.
yeah. It's
Not worth
interesting because yeah, it's there's been films like that where like if the credits roll and I'm like, well, that's 2 hours of my life that I won't get
it.
back.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Yeah,
It's not worth it. It's not worth
yeah.
it. Yeah, totally not worth it.
But it's
um,
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
that I was gonna say the other movie that's really good, that's in a really creepy,
Hmm.
really terrifying way, is The Shining.
The
And I
Shining. I
know
love that movie.
that's an amazing movie. It's incredibly like well shot as
Yeah,
well. Because
Stanley
it's Kubrick.
Kubrick.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It looks amazing, and the acting's amazing, and it's
Hmm.
super creepy. It's one of those movies I've seen over and over and over again because it's
Hmm.
so perfect. You
Yeah.
know, um, but it is it is, and it's also extremely terrifying. And then you hear the stories about how that movie was made, and it's kind of really tragic, though. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the actress behind the scenes. She was really tortured.
Yeah.
They were really horrible to her. I think she ended up losing her mind. It's
Yeah.
really kind of a sad story, but that movie is one of the greatest movies, I think. Especially in that genre, and it's super. It
Yeah.
stays with you. It has all that sort of weird past life stuff where he's looking at himself. That picture of himself from the 20s.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
all this really, and I know Stephen King did not like it, which is
Hmm.
interesting too. Stephen King didn't like the movie version of it,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
He hated that adaptation because it was like the exact opposite of what he wanted to do with. It had something to do with the character of
Being an
what's his name?
alcoholic. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a lot of it. Yeah, because I think the book was written about that
Hmm.
sort of line between alcoholism
Hmm.
and that kind of behavior, and it was
Yeah.
much more ambiguous about it being. She's blowing my
Sorry.
nose. It's okay.
Sorry.
um, that it was sort of ambiguous, sort of like walking that line between, is this real, or
Uh-huh.
is he a crazy alcoholic guy? And in the book, you can't really do that on film, though. That's the thing
Hmm.
that I don't think Stephen King. A lot of the Stephen King, to me, I love Stephen King books. They're really fun to read,
Oh yeah.
um, and he's a great writer. But when you adapt them to the screen, you kind of have to
Hmm.
make some decisions. And all the worst Stephen King adaptations are the ones he likes the best because they're the truest to
Yes.
the. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
he doesn't get it that you kind of have. Film is a totally different medium than writing a novel. It's a hugely different enterprise.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's interesting that he hated that one so much, but it's a great film, and whether he likes it or not, it is. I think it maybe it's a flip of what his book was kind of trying to get to, but it
Yeah.
still works. It's a great movie. Yeah.
Did you see the sequel or read the book? I have I because I haven't read the book yet, but I saw the it's kind of the sequel, kind of not the sequel, but I think it was the sequel to The Shining. It was called Doctor Sleep, where Danny
Oh, yeah, I
Torrance.
love that
That
movie.
was
That was a
good.
really great movie too.
Yeah.
I
You know
love
what's
that movie. Yeah, that was
yeah,
fun. I watched it a couple times. Yes,
that
it's much later.
it
Yeah.
was interesting because it very much continued uh Danny's journey as both a psychic because we didn't realize that there was this entire world outside of the Overlook Hotel, because I guess his powers, I guess, were rare, but also that the True Knot, which were those psychic vampires that were making their
Right.
way around. What I found interesting was that the Overlook Hotel itself, I guess in the movie adaptation, they made it seem like the Overlook Hotel itself was an entity.
Right, the Shining,
Yeah,
the Shining place.
and
Right.
I think it kept the True Knot off the radar, because I think that Danny would have been probably he would have been unalived by this group of people, because they were, when he was a little boy in the movie, they were making it seem like, because I mean these the True Knot, for those of you who haven't seen the Doctor Sleep, they're these like um they're semi immortal, I guess,
They
because
Yeah, well,
they're
they basically go and take
mm-hmm.
people's soul energy, and that's
Yeah,
how they live longer.
right,
Right.
exactly. So
And the more
they're
psychic the person is, the more energy it has for them. So,
right.
yeah, they live off of that. Yeah, so
Yep.
go
And
ahead.
oh, sorry.
Right. It's
Some of them
okay.
are, yeah, some of them are up to 1,000 years old. Some of them are just 50 years old or whatever. But they appear young, and they go around the United States in a caravan, kind of like um, I don't want to say, like gypsy, because I don't think that's the right term to
Right,
use. But
but they're wanderers.
yeah,
They're nomads. Yeah.
they're nomads. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Denise.
Oh, no
And
problem.
yeah, and it's interesting because Danny's his niece, who actually is his actual niece in the book, but in the movie, I think it's she just calls him Uncle Danny or whatever. She's this even more powerful psychic than him, and the True Knot, that she gets on their radar, and they try to go after her, and Danny's also protecting her. And in my opinion, because she's such a powerful psychic, even more powerful than Danny is. Um, it's like a bunch of vipers trying to get at a honey badger or something, because the honey badger can withstand all of
Right.
what do you call it, the venom and stuff, and then just tears up the snakes and all that. So it's almost like they're a predator trying to get at, like, what they don't realize could have the potential to be an even bigger predator to them and everything. And so, yeah, it's a good movie. I forgot the reason why I brought it up in the first
Because it
place.
was related to The Shining.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because it was a sequel to The Shining, which happened, The Shining came out, I think, in the 80s, and that came
Yeah.
out
Hmm.
only like 10 years ago or something. So there's a
Right.
huge gap between the two. And
Hmm.
the only thing you'll recognize from The Shining is the character of Dan. He's grown up, he's an
Yeah.
alcoholic, and I think he's struggling with that,
Yep.
And it's an interesting movie because the thing about
Hmm.
Stephen King is all of his really writings are really about psi ability,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
just sort of that kind of thing. So it makes you think he's probably had some experiences himself because he writes about it in a
Hmm.
very kind of pretty, I mean, he exaggerates it, but he definitely writes about it in kind of a realistic way in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
One of
Yeah.
my favorite, like, Stephen King books, as well as the movie, is and I actually like the 1990 Stephen King It miniseries that has Tim Curry
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything.
Okay.
That one, I guess, I don't even know if that would be considered a slasher film or whatever, but really what I like about it is this bond between the friend characters, the Losers Club, aka the Lucky Seven, and how they come together as this great good to defeat this great evil in the form of Pennywise. And it's interesting
Oh,
because, yeah,
okay.
because
I didn't see that series. I've only seen the movies though.
oh yeah,
And they're good movies. They're really creepy though. I mean,
they
they're
are,
super
yeah.
dark and creepy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I've seen, like, both adaptations, the 19 the 2019, 17 and 19 ones, the two parts, because it's such a big book. It's such a thick book, like this thick. They have to, like, divvy
Break
it
it
up
up.
into break
Yeah,
it up
right.
into two
For the
films.
screen. Yeah. The other
And I
thing
and
about
yeah.
those particular those movies, and the thing about Stephen King that's always interesting to me is there's always like a childhood thing about it.
Hmm.
And there's
Oh
always a
yeah.
kid at the center
Hmm.
because kids are very psychic, and it's always sort of
Yeah.
like it is, they're almost not exclusively, but like Carrie, if that is
Right.
all about this girl who's going through like puberty and becoming a young woman, and all of her kind of psychic powers. So you see
Mhm.
that as sort of like he always seems to like that's a theme that runs through a lot of those books, that
Yeah.
it's kids trying to deal with psychic stuff. And I think in reality that is what happens to a lot of kids.
Yeah.
They have this imagination, and they're
Mhm.
freaked out and scared looking under the bed because they are perceiving things because they just came in here from the other world, and they're
Sure.
kind of
Yeah.
part here, part there. And
Mhm. That's
this is why
true.
it's so scary, I think, his stuff, and why it hits people so intensely, because it resonates. Everybody's had some kind of experience when they're a kid that was really creepy or weird, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too. The one of my favorite films actually happens to be also a horror film right now is The Black Phone. It was
Oh,
that was
that's a
that.
great movie too. That is a
Did you see
great.
that?
Oh my God, that to me reminded
Love it.
me of the 70s. Like if you I grew up in the, I was born in
Yeah.
67, so
Yeah. I was
the
born in 88, so but
you're
it's
way
weird.
past it. You're way
I know.
past it. I was already married by then. But the 70s were this very creepy,
Mhm.
especially as a kid,
Yeah.
and a girl. There was like this very dark kind of creepy thing about the 70s that was hard to pin down. A lot of people are on drugs.
Sure.
It was post the like sort of Vietnam stuff, and like
Mhm.
and the sexual revolution. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of predatory men around. And as a
Yes.
little
Yeah.
girl, you just felt like really scared to walk down the street because
Yeah.
it was a very weird and creepy time, and people didn't pay attention to what was going on with their kids.
Oh
They
yeah.
just let you run around in the street. Kids were
Mhm.
being killed and abducted, and nobody seemed to notice,
Yeah.
and there was no sheltering kids from like a lot of
Mhm.
dark things. And so that movie personifies that period to me,
Yeah.
like that really creepy period of time for kids. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a brilliant film. It really felt like being a kid again to me. I know it sounds like a
Yeah.
weird thing to say about a horror
No, no,
movie,
no,
but
no.
it
I get
really
it.
was. Yeah.
I understand, and it's interesting because what I found fascinating about it is
The
that
Black
sense of
Phone.
the sense
She's
of
asking.
isol. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
she
ahead.
was just asking what the name of the film was, and I was just telling her The Black Phone.
The
It's
Black
called
Phone.
what it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
It's
should see it if you haven't seen it. See the first the because it actually did just come out with a sequel, which I'll talk
I
about in
haven't
a
seen
bit.
that yet. Yeah.
But what I found interesting about that the connection between Finney and Gwen, because Gwen was the one that had the prophetic dreams, and she kept
Oh, right,
seeing.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she kept seeing what they called the grabber, who was the child abductor that lived in their neighborhood
Right.
in Denver, Colorado.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is that sense of isolation that they really drill home in this movie, and the fact that like the I don't think that they named him in the I know in the book in the short story his name was like Albert Shaw or something like that. That was what the grabber's real name was. But
Mm.
I mean he would abduct these kids like right in broad daylight,
Right.
with using balloons and
Balloons.
yeah.
Right.
And
The clown
the
makeup,
right
which
and the
is really
fact
creepy.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And the fact that he would grab them and then get them, into that basement, it really drilled home that sense of isolation that these predators, they
Right.
use. And it's crazy because like that's how I think, a lot of these predatory people, even to, of course today too, try to isolate their victims or try to, like make them seem, they try to discredit them. But what the grabber did not anticipate, obviously, is this, Finney being psychic because he talked about how that phone, and I think that the
Right.
grabber character I think the grabber character also might have had psychic abilities himself because he said that he's heard that phone ring before. But I don't know if he did or not. But the fact that Finney was able to hear his like the five
The dead
previous
kids.
victims,
Yeah, the dead
yeah,
kids. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they all
it
gave
gave
him a
him a piece of advice. Yes. Yeah,
exactly
it was a nice merger of like, it's kind of in that way it has a little bit in common with like but it's not the main point of the movie, isn't the psychic thing, but
sure,
it's sort of this, it does delve into that instinctual thing, like you said, the
yeah,
grabber who's this creepy, dark character who
yeah,
is obviously like he's a predator, and predators have their own kind of sort of psychic ability, like they can sort of pick the weak one out of the herd, you know what I mean, and kind of
Yeah.
prey on them. And then the brother and sister, who the brother was grabbed, have like
Right.
a really strong psychic bond, and they're both kind of psychic or intuitive, and they have a really abusive father, which I thought was really interesting because there
Father was
is
also an alcoholic too.
an
Their
alcoholic.
father. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really common thing you see in people that develop psychic ability, actually, is having an
Yeah.
abusive parent,
Oh
or
yeah.
like somebody who's irrational in the house, because
Yeah.
you have to kind of hone your intuition to deal with that. So these kids are kind of dealing with that. So they are kind of almost, they're sort of a formidable force against this predator. He doesn't know what
Sure.
he's in for, you
Yeah.
know, and
He
it's really,
underestimates them
he totally
drastically.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
And and what's interesting about the connection between Finney and Gwen is, and as psychics, it's interesting because there's that the phone I think was an allegory or metaphor for like the connection between like not even the physical connection but that energetic connection, like even if you're in a basement somewhere, like it they still were able to make contact with
Connect.
one another
Right,
in a
right,
way. Yeah,
right,
or at least maybe Finn wasn't directly, but I know that Gwen, she kept having dreams about him, and she kept
right,
getting pieces of that puzzle, just
right.
like how the boys were giving pieces of the puzzle, which is kind of how psychic ability
That's how
in
it really
Finn it
works,
works
which is what
exactly.
one of the interesting things about that film is it's more realistic than like a
Yes.
Stephen King thing. Stephen
Yeah.
King thing is he takes it to this very dramatic, over the top kind of thing, which is fun, but that's really not how psychic ability works, really,
Right.
whereas, the way that it's handled there is absolutely really spot on about how it usually kind of unfolds. And it is more piecemeal. It's more like pieces, and it's, you have to put it together, and they kind of find, and made it more interesting film, I think, because
Right.
it creates all these sort of like rabbit hole things to go
Hmm.
through it, and sort of turns of story,
Hmm.
because of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all, that's part of what I found fascinating about that. And what you were saying before about how in the 70s, also, sorry, the early 80s, it seemed like between 1943 and 1947 or 50 or whatever, there was a bunch of like serial killers and
You mean
predators that
people
were
born then? Yeah,
born
yeah.
into that.
No, that's
Yeah,
right.
and we even
Literally,
had we even
yeah.
had one here in Anchorage, Alaska. You might have heard of him. He was called, I think, the Butcher Baker. It was his name. It was I think. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name. Robert Hansen. He owned a bakery here in downtown Anchorage, and he
Wow.
actually he had kidnapped over 30 women that were like some of them, most of them prostitutes, and most of them, I think, Alaska Native. And he would take them in his plane, and he would take them out to like a remote area, and then he would pew pew them out,
Right.
because can't say it for YouTube. But anyway, one of my like, okay, so a friend, a friend of my dad's, his sister, I think, worked at that bakery for like one day, and
Wow.
she was like
She
just
got a
getting
bad
kind of,
feeling?
yeah, she got a
Yeah.
really bad feeling, and she was like, I'm out. So
Right.
she's
Good
yeah,
for her.
so
Good for her.
because they found, he finally got caught, I think it was the 80s or something like that. And it was, anyways, there were so many
It's
stories.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's remarkable the number of serial killers born
Hmm.
with that placement of Pluto and Leo, Neptune and Libra. There seem to be just, I
Hmm.
mean, almost all of the famous ones are born. There's a couple
Yeah.
that like kind of Gen X ones, but not as
Hmm.
many. And it sort of died down, and then it's sort of a different strategy. And I don't know why that is, but
Yeah.
it's something about, I think, that time of growing up where
Hmm.
men were sort of so catered to, I think, and the
Oh yeah.
culture was booming, and there's sort of this combination of, that narcissistic post-war kind of
Hmm.
thing that just exploded, like just the level of, I mean, even if you look at some of the people in politics today who are in that
Hmm.
generation, they have that same predatory way of dealing with women,
Oh
You
yeah.
know, it's a pervasive thing in that generation. And I wonder if maybe too, because that generation of women really kind of stood up to those men and were,
Yeah.
really, kind of pushed the boundaries into feminism. And if
I
it
love
was
that.
some sort of reaction to, not reaction directly, but like sort of like we're going to control them at all costs or something like that. I don't know,
Right. Well,
you
that's what they
know,
seem to be trying to do right now, but like now more women are being like, what the fuck you are, like you're not
right,
going to
right,
touch me.
right,
Yeah,
right,
and there's like right now, I think we're at this point in time because of everything that's happening because that's one of the things that you talk a lot about on your lives and your Substack is a lot of what's going on in politics right now, and
right.
it's like we're getting to this like I think it's like a boiling point, especially with them, striking the what was it called? The Supreme Court striking down
Roe v.
Roe
Wade.
versus Wade. Yeah.
Right.
Which I have a feeling we will get that back, but it's probably going to be a long time, before, like that's codified into this country because we have so many other things, we're dealing with, like the rise of, a lot of
Fashion film.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
it's crazy the way things are escalating right now. So hopefully
right.
hopefully we can keep because a lot of women I've noticed, because there's what was it called, the B4 movement right now where they're like opting out of marriage and
Oh, wow.
sex and
Yeah.
everything. So
Can't blame
I
them,
yeah, yeah,
really.
like exactly. I think that that's important to just, walk
It's,
away if you yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting in that Gen Z generation where I guess they're not having a lot of sexual relations with each other, but
Yeah.
a lot of the boys are kind of really, some of them are very extreme, like misogynists, I guess. They're
Oh
sort of
yeah.
being,
The red
um,
pillars.
yeah, the
Yeah.
red pillars. I don't, and then you have the girls who are like, nah, I don't need any of that. You know what I mean? And so,
Exactly.
I
Good for
mean,
them.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I don't know what those boys think they're going to get out of that because
Yeah.
that is
I
not how you have a relationship with other humans, you know?
right. I think that a lot of one of the good things or one of the bright spots here is I think there's a lot of guys that are coming out of that way of thinking because they're realizing it's destroying every relationship that they have, not just with
Yes,
women, but with their families and everything
of
because
course.
yeah, they're being told one thing and then they're like, well, holy crap, this is actually destroying my life. And so they're really, I mean, what's good is that they're some of them, not every guy, obviously, but it is, I think, starting a trend of more of these young guys questioning, why is it that, I've been told to do this and yet this is the result of that, they're realizing they've also been duped because they've been paying money to these influencers like that
That's
as well.
terrible.
So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
and those influencers really took them off a cliff,
yeah,
basically, and ruined their future totally.
right.
And I mean, ruined their ability to have a relationship with other human beings. Let me just say, for any dude that
Hmm.
doesn't get, they were born from a woman.
Hmm.
Everybody starts out as a woman. They
Exactly.
are actually a mutation of the feminine form. It isn't the other way around. That is
Right.
biology. So if you think that women are somehow other, you should
Hmm.
realize you came from a woman and you should have some respect for that because you wouldn't be here in this world without your mom and without her sacrificing her body to bring you through.
Exactly.
And you have nipples because you were in utero, you were a
Yes.
female. So
Exactly.
you are also a female.
Exactly.
So get over it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, exactly. And yeah, thanks for saying that too, because that's one thing I learned a long time ago as well is that, with the X and Y chromosome, like that's those
Yes,
X chromosomes, that's where you start off at,
that's where you start. Everybody
biologically.
starts as a female. In fact, and I'm not to get too graphic,
No,
but
it's okay. Yeah.
the clitoris actually
Mm-hmm.
went with the testosterone, and that's why some people can be genetically male and
Mm-hmm.
become female, or genetically female and become male because of the levels of testosterone and estrogen in the mom's womb. So like there was an athlete who I was probably like 10 or 15 years ago who was, I think, in the Olympics or something, and they do genetic testing to see if you're faking it, like, or maybe it was some other sport. I can't remember what it was. I don't
Yeah.
pay attention to sports, but
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah.
she was a woman her whole life. She knew nothing different. They tested
Mhm.
her, and she turned out to be chromosomally a male.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
and this was a whole uproar at the time. And it's like, well, because it's not just your chromosomes, it's also like the how you're nurtured in utero with the level of estrogen and
Mhm.
hormones in there. But so basically in the fetus, what happens a developing fetus, it's female, the form is
Mhm.
female, which tells us a lot about the nature of the universe, in my opinion. Starts out
Yes.
female, and then what happens is that the testosterone and the chromosome breakage in the male, it basically,
Mhm.
what your labia is becomes the sacs,
Yeah.
and the clitoris becomes a penis. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's the same equipment, it's just mutated. I mean,
Exactly.
so I wish people would think about it that way, because
Yeah.
um I think men might feel a little bit more humbled by that, to know that
Yeah.
they were actually women too. There's no
Yeah.
difference.
And not only that, but there's a bunch of like bigots out there that just because, say for example, a woman just happens to have short hair and is using the bathroom. There's been stories like I've seen on TikTok, for example, like a while back. This woman just happened to be using the bathroom, and this other woman that was a bigot just happened to come in there and be like, "Why are you using the bathroom?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You're transgender," or something like that. And she was just like, she was asking, "Are you transgender?" She says, "It's none of your business." She said,
That's
"That's
right.
none." Yeah, she says, "That is none of your business." Like, and I saw that like in that same video, like in the comments, a lot of people that were part of the trans community were saying, "Thank you for not throwing us, under the
And
bus
the
and
bus,
everything."
right, right.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, this whole thing is ridiculous because
It is ridiculous. It's just
yeah,
hatred and stupidity, and
and yeah,
people with emotional problems who are projecting their garbage onto other people. And, these people should do some real actual inner work and some spiritual work,
exactly.
instead of just calling themselves, putting a placard that supposedly they can hide behind about some kind of religious bullshit, because
Right.
they're not spiritual people. If you do stuff like that, you're not a good person. End of story. That's just the way it
Exactly.
is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there was something I was going to say about, because we when we first started talking about defending your life,
Yes, yeah, defending your life,
so
back to that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and you were talking about like other films about the other side, and there's not a lot of them and everything.
there's
Have you ever
not,
heard?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
have you ever heard of the film No Solar? It's a Brazilian film. I think you might enjoy that one. It's in Portuguese, and it's called Astral City, I think is the
Huh,
English name
okay,
for it. It's
interesting.
on yeah, it's on Amazon. I think it's on like Gaia TV if you have a subscription to that. It's one I highly recommend. It's basically this doctor named Andrea Louise, was a doctor in the I think it was in the 19 pre it was pre World War II in the 1930s. He died from a like intestinal issue that was brought on by too much drinking and smoking and eating, like
Red
overindulgence
meat,
basically.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and he had a really like he was pretty close-minded, very materialistic, and he found himself in this place called they called it Umbral or something. It was basically a purgatory area that he found himself in for about like 8 years, and then he started like really like he got to a point where he really hit rock bottom because that's where his mind was at when he died. So it reflected back on the other side, and so he ended up having this spiritual awakening after he was taken to the other side to get
Mhm,
healed, and he
right,
just discovered this whole like that this was the real reality and not earth
right,
and
right,
everything.
right.
And so it triggered this like really quick spiritual
Awakening.
awakening and everything. And it's really good. I really enjoy that film. It's based on these series of books by Brazilian author Chico Javier. But I
Okay.
think, yeah, one of the things though, that one of the
It's
problematic
called, what
things,
is it called? Also, what is it called
and
again?
it's called No Solar.
No
I'll write it.
solar. Okay, no
Yeah,
solar. Okay.
yeah, I'll write
So,
it
and
in the
it
chat here.
sounds like solar. Is it spelled SOLAR?
I think so.
No
Yeah,
solar.
it's yeah. So I put it in the chat. It's and No Solar, but it's astral.
No
I'll put
solar.
link.
Okay, I see. Okay, that's good to see.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you look up the movie Astral City, that's the first one. They have a sequel to it. It's
Okay.
really good. Yeah, and it's very like I would say the movie's really good. I think that the books have a lot of problematic issues because I think a lot of I think Chico Javier was more like Catholic or Christian or something. So
Right.
there's a lot of I think like ego is kind of inserted into the books themselves, but
Right.
the movie is really good because it really
Boils it down to the more the points.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a really good story, I think, because it shows how somebody can go from being very close-minded and living in their ego to really, having
You
a
know what? That
yeah.
reminds me of the other movie that you're talking about this. It kind of reminds me of the movie, gosh, it's a terrible name. It's totally unmemorable. But it has the comedian from the original Office comedian, the guy who did The Office back in England.
Okay,
What's his name?
I forgot
Ricky
his name.
Gervais. Ricky
Oh yeah,
Gervais.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and also like Tia Leone is in it.
Mhm.
Oh God, what's the name of that movie? And it's all about this guy who's a dentist, and he's a real curmudgeony asshole. He's just a
Mhm.
really hates people. He's really misanthropic, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he goes in for a procedure, has a near death experience,
Mhm.
and he doesn't know he had the near death. They didn't tell him he died on the table.
Oh
They
wow.
restarted his heart, and all of a sudden, he's starting to see ghosts everywhere, and he has
Oh,
to kind of deal
I've
with
heard of
that.
this. Uh-huh.
And it's really great because the transformation isn't so much about his experience going to the other side. It's about
Yeah.
him having to sort of deal with this all of a sudden having this ability and people wanting things from him,
Yeah.
these spirits, and him having to kind of come to the realization that helping people is actually what this world is all about. And
Right.
it's great. It's a great movie. I've seen it a couple times. It's got a terrible name. It's totally unmemorable. Let me see if I can find it.
Totally. I've seen clips of it actually on YouTube, but I haven't
Right,
seen
maybe
the
that.
full film. I'll have to. That
Yeah.
also kind of reminds me of what you were describing with his attitude and everything. It reminds me of Oda Mae from Ghost, played
Oh
by
yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
You know how she was like a fraud. Well, in her she was what was it? I don't know if it would be called a grifter or whatever. She,
Yes, she was. She was a
she,
grifter. Yeah, she
yeah, she
was.
had like her character, Whoopi Goldberg's character in Ghost had the ability, but she was, using. I don't even know if she was using. I don't even think she was using her ability, but she used the fact that she, had her mother. I guess her mother, her grandmother, down the line. We learned that her character in Ghost had, had a line of psychic, so
Right.
she used that to her advantage to
Take advantage of people.
take
Yeah,
advantage of people. And then of
right.
course Sam shows up and she's forced to help
To
him
really deal with it. Right. It's true. It's
exactly.
similar in that way. It's called
Yeah.
Ghost Town is the name
Ghost
of it.
Town.
See, that's
Okay.
it's a very unmemorable, not interesting name, but it
Right.
is a really, really good movie. I think
Okay.
it's a really fun movie because it really he has this big transformation
Hmm.
and it's good. It's a fun movie. I've seen it a couple of times. It's good.
That's
I highly
amazing.
recommend it. Yeah.
I will check that
Really.
out. Thank you for that recommendation. There's also another movie I was going to bring up. Oh, have you seen the movie, speaking of ghosts and speaking of psychics, have you seen the movie Personal Shopper with Kristen
No,
Stewart? Ooh, it's
no.
really good. Because that movie, okay, so
Go for
basically
it. Personal
Chris
shopper.
yeah, it's I would say watch it probably in the dark because the way the cameras and stuff filmed it, it's kind of like I wouldn't watch it on a sunny day. But basically
Really?
it's
Okay.
right, yeah. Basically, Kristen Stewart, her character is living in France or in Paris for like a temporary amount of time, and
Uh-huh.
she had a brother, a twin brother that had passed away from a heart condition because she has one. She also has a heart condition, and she's working for a really high profile, I think, model that she goes around and has does the shopping for this woman, gets all the gowns, all the clothing that this woman will need for whatever event she's going to go
Right.
to and everything. And the purpose for her just staying in Paris is because she made a promise with her brother that if she, if one of them passes first, one of them would give a sign. And so the house that he had, because he was a carpenter by trade, so she was sitting in his house alone. I guess his former fiance had dropped her off there in the very beginning, and she's like, trying to make contact. And it's interesting because it's very realistic to what I've experienced as far as like seeing ghosts and everything. Because like
Right.
they present it as this the ghostly presence as this energetic pool, like a pool, and she's trying to like you know make contact by trying to connect with the energy, and she you can see that there's like a shimmer of energy like at the very beginning of there. And she's about to sell the house to the fiance, and the sister are trying to sell that house to this couple that. And so the couple is like, like hearing updates about like, have you made contact with him? And they're like totally open for her to do that before, to make peace with the house, because they want to make sure that the house is energetically clean for them and everything. And it's very fascinating because it's like it's one of those slow burn films too, and it's you really get a sense of, oh, this, you know the way that the ghosts appear, it's just very familiar to what I've experienced, seeing spirit energy and everything.
Right.
It's almost like, when there's static in the TV and you could barely see, like you could see like almost like a either a shimmer or almost like an after image of something. Like I've experienced that, like some kind of spirit in this house, because the house I'm in right now is the house I grew up in. And
Right.
it's just, yeah, anyways, it's one I highly recommend like everybody watch. It's called Personal Shopper.
Yeah, that
But
sounds good. I would like to say, if you haven't watched the series The Good Place,
mhm.
have you ever seen that TV show?
I've seen some
Some
episodes
people
too.
missed it. That is also, I think that's probably one of the best TV shows ever. And
Oh
it's all
wow.
about this whole kind of, now it's taking the paradigm of heaven and hell, like in the
Yeah.
Christian paradigm.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not really totally metaphysical. But it's very, very funny,
Yeah.
and it's very kind of it's just kind of an interesting thing. It does deal with themes of, people doing bad things in life and good things.
Mhm.
And there's a really interesting sort of structure over the whole thing that you come to find out as you watch it,
Mhm.
and that nobody goes to heaven anymore, not because of anything they did personally, but
Yeah.
because our whole collective society is so screwed up that you
Yeah.
can't do the right thing. You're kind of stuck in this, and it's a really interesting. There's a lot of philosophical points in it that are really interesting, and it's very entertaining. So you don't feel like you're being evangelized or anything, but it's a very
Sure.
interesting, fun show. And also the show Ghosts. I love that show, but I can't, yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's a fun show. It's really cute. It's very
I've been
funny.
wanting to see that one as well.
It's
I've got to
really
go back and watch those.
fun.
Those are fun, and they're comedies too, and everything,
Yes, I like that combination of sort of comedy and
Mhm.
spiritual kind of things, because in reality, this stuff, people treat it usually in a very creepy, scary way, but it's
Sure.
actually, a lot of it is just kind of ridiculous and fun and silly, and not to be afraid of it, I think is a
Yeah.
good, because we all are going to pass over at some point. So, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's fun seeing those the different versions of all the ghost stories, whether it's a
Yeah.
yeah, whether it's a comedy or it's a psychological, thriller
Yeah.
type. I think
Right.
that those are
Yeah, I think the
fascinating.
interesting thing about that show Ghosts is that it takes it from more the ghosts are kind of part of the perspective,
Yeah.
and you see how they got stuck kind of because they're
Yeah.
sort of selfish. They're not bad people, but they just
Right.
are kind of self-absorbed, and they're kind of petty. And
Right.
and it's interesting to sort of like think about how somebody would get stuck here on this plane of existence for such a long time. Now the Viking guy, he's here because he killed a lot of people probably. And
Yeah.
he was not the best dude. But it's interesting to think about just sort of what, just as a metaphor in your life too, for what gets you stuck in your life. by the behavior that these ghosts exhibit. I mean, it's always, it's sweet and it's funny and it's just a fun show. It's half an hour, like you don't have to think about anything, just laugh for a minute.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Those are
fun show.
those are and those are great. The ones that you can watch for 20 minutes and, just
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
just have fun, and it's sort of like, okay, everything's gonna be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what do you think of the Addams Family? I'm curious. Like the both the 1990 version and also have you seen Wednesday?
I have seen a little bit of it. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen the Addams Family. I mean, that show, and then there was another show, The Monsters, that were on when I
Yeah.
was a kid. They're
Oh, I
sort
love
of
that.
similar, kind of. Um, I watched The Monsters more. I didn't really watch The Addams Family as much for some reason. Probably just it was a timing thing, like when I got home from school or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I'm not really that fascinated by like vampires and monsters so much.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I've never, I don't, they never really, I mean, I don't have anything against it. I like watching it if it's on, but I don't
Yeah.
really seek it out. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not my
Yeah.
thing really. So I haven't really watched it enough to know. I mean, I think the Wednesday show seems like a good show to me
Yeah.
from what I saw of it. And those are good shows, but I don't think to watch them, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm
For
sort of
sure.
neutral on them. Yeah.
It's interesting because both the Munsters. It's funny you bring up the Munsters as well. I think that the Addams Family and the Munsters are two of the most functional families that we
Yeah,
see.
that's true. The more than real families. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
that's
it's
true.
funny because like there's also you see there's shows like I started watching the or like the what is it called? Malcolm in the Middle is another really funny. I know that
Yeah,
that's not a monster show or anything like
right.
that, but that was hilarious. Like one of the most funny like shows I've ever seen, and it's interesting how like the seemingly like normal families are the ones that are the most dysfunctional because there's a lot going on underneath, but
Right. Yeah.
the more the ones that seem like they're creepy, they're
Or
monsters or whatever.
crazy. Right. No, I
Yeah.
think it's probably true that the more eccentric people, and I was just thinking about that today, like
Uh-huh.
how the people I knew that had kind of eccentric
Hmm.
parents and would sort of do their own thing, those
Hmm.
kids are really close to their parents, whereas a lot of the kids that have more normie families sort of don't have as close a relationship. But I think that's something to do with like there's a book called The Narcissistic Family that it's
Oh,
like a book on psychology, and I think there's that sort of I think part of uh, the projection of everything having to be normal is a problem. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Then that is telling you like the ordinary people. That movie is sort of about that. If you've seen
Yeah.
that movie,
Yeah.
it's sort of about people trying to make everything seem like it's okay. And if everything seems perfect, it's definitely not. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
It's true.
Nobody is
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, also Kramer versus Kramer was another, I think, film that
Yes.
came out around that time too.
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
was and that one also had Meryl Streep and
Yes.
Dustin
Dustin
Hoffman.
Hoffman. Yes,
Yeah,
that's right. I saw it a long
yeah,
time ago. I don't remember much about it other being about a divorce, but yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those films are so fascinating, and one of the other things, and it's not like family related, but it's very interesting being there, was also
Yes.
yeah,
That was one of
that
my favorite films of all time too, when I was a kid
yeah.
especially. Yeah.
And it's interesting because what I found to be really sad, because I know it was based off of a book which I haven't
Sure.
read yet, but
Yeah.
Peter Sellers' character in that movie, the fact that he was kind of stuck in that house, in that the old man,
Chauncey. Yeah, Chauncey
yeah,
Gardner. Yeah.
Chauncey Gardner, right? Yeah, Chance, like was stuck in that house, and he wasn't really well taken care of. I mean, I think they took care of his basic needs, put him in front of the television and everything, but once that man died, he didn't make plans to have Chance taken care of. And what's interesting is that had the what's her name's character, Shirley MacLaine's character,
Yeah.
had she
I think
not
she was the daughter in the movie of the guy, I
well,
think,
no,
or something
she
like
was the
that.
wife, she was the young
The
wife of
wife,
him.
that's right, the much younger wife.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Yeah.
the guy's name was Ben, and he was like a close advisor to the president and all that, I think, or he was a businessman. But it's interesting, he was played by Melvin Douglas. That was one of his last films that he did, and Melvin Douglas was an actor, part of the golden era, I think, of Hollywood
Hmm.
and everything.
Right.
Yeah, same. Like I would say, probably your grandparents' generation, my great grandparents' generation.
Right.
He was also, I think it was, I think he's the same age as Dan Amishi, who played Shadow and what's it called? He was one of the Duke brothers, and what is that called? Coming to America, and
Oh,
what's
huh.
that? The one where he, what was it? He was one of the villains. Anyways, he had like Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy switch places and stuff. It's like,
Oh, right, right, right. Trading
yeah,
Places. That movie,
Trading
Trading
Places.
Places. Yeah,
That
yeah,
was a classic.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
but
good movie. It's
but
fun.
Melvin Douglas, his granddaughter is Ileana Douglas, and
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That makes sense. Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I really like her. She was in, what was it? I think it's the Cat's Meow. She was in a
She's
movie
been
with
in a
Jennifer
lot of
Tilly.
stuff. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
been she was a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s especially. She was in
yeah,
like everything, it seemed like. Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
She followed in her grandfather's footsteps with acting and everything, which I thought was really good. But yeah, anyways. Back to what I was going to say with being there. Yeah, Ben's character, and I'm forgetting the wife's name, played by Shirley MacLaine. Had she not hit him with a car, he would have
right,
been homeless. He would have been homeless on the street,
right.
because like,
True.
yeah,
That's true. But that's the theme of that movie, which is I think the thing that's really, and his name Chauncey or
Chance the guard. It
Chance
was his real
Gardner.
name's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Chauncey, right. But the thing that's the it's really like a I think it takes this whole thing basically about chance and fate and sort
Mm-hmm,
of one thing and how just not it's even more about I think how people sort of project their own stuff onto it. I mean, if you notice in the movie,
mm-hmm.
the reason he gets from one place to the next, he doesn't say much. He doesn't do
Yeah,
anything. People just assume and project
yeah,
on him.
yeah.
And he ends up getting all of these things happen to him
Mm-hmm,
because he just sort of goes with it,
yeah,
and sort of like just how fate and projection and being at the right place at the right time is so
yeah.
much of how people succeed in life and how things end up happening to you is I think kind of what that movie's about in a philosophical way. It's a
Right,
little, some people don't like that idea because it seems like they don't have control and some people really
right.
push back against that, but I think it's probably more true than not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a lot of people. Yeah.
Right. And he was so innocent, and I think he
Yes.
had like
Yeah.
autism or something. He
Maybe.
must have
Yeah.
had. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like his energy was like open to being, guided, obviously,
Yeah.
because of
Right.
the the state that he was just in as a soul,
Right.
and so yeah, what you were saying
He
about
just
people,
went with it. He
yeah,
just went with it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's interesting because I remember in being there that scene right before, I think it was when Ben was talking to his doctor or his lawyer or something, and he was, I think, working on doing some kind of computer stuff that they would have done back in the 80s and
Right.
printing things out. He was saying to his doctor, because the doctor was like, I need to tell you something about Chance. He says, hold on a second. He says, I trust him. I want him. He was basically like encouraging his wife and Chance to be a couple if they wanted to,
Right.
because
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
It was like
and
one thing after the next with that. It was
yeah,
really that was what was so fun about that movie was to see like he just kind of rolled with it and kind of had this sort of like
hmm,
innocent sort of blank thing about him that
yeah,
people could just project what their values and who they were onto him and how
yeah,
by just going with it he
right,
kind of just he ended up like in this he ended up having this life you would never have expected him to have, basically.
exactly. And
Yeah.
they were thinking of making him president.
Yes, exactly. But
Yeah,
that's that in some ways to me too, I think it was a commentary, the writer,
yeah,
and just people failing upward too. And basically
right,
people being at the right place at the right time, not necessarily having the qualifications to do what they're doing. I mean, it
yeah,
was a fun, sweet way of kind of talking, not so negative, but you see that kind of like, sort of it's sort of commentary on people just kind of being slotted into situations that they probably shouldn't be in.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, there what was I going to say? Anyway, yeah, it was classic film, and the very end
yes,
of that where he was walking on water, that was a
yeah,
fast that was really
yeah,
that was a
right.
mystery, and I think it kind of left us open to
Well, what
figuring
was he
out.
really? Right. What
Yeah.
was he really? I think that was kind of an interesting point in that, yeah, that was an interesting ending. Like, so it makes you wonder, like, is that also kind of sort of about divine sort of timing and grace and kind of
Hmm.
just going with the flow of your life or something? I think maybe that's also part of that whole message of just sort of, he just went with the flow of what
Hmm.
next came and next came. And the sort of, he was being guided almost by some kind of divine force or something like that.
He
I
was,
think that
yeah.
might have been the point of that walking on water thing at the
I think
end.
s- I think
Yeah.
so too. And I heard that like he stood on a board or something. They had like some kind of board, right?
Oh,
Like a
really?
platform. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was reading about when it
That
came
makes
to.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That's
And
cool.
then and then the credits, I don't know if you saw the credits afterwards where he was trying to.
Yes, that was one of the best parts where
Yeah.
he's cracking up about the Raphael thing and like
Yeah, he's like
he couldn't even get it straight for the movie. I think they just cut it out because he couldn't
they
keep a straight face.
yeah, because he
Yeah.
was like, listen here, honky, and then he just
Yeah,
started
right.
laughing.
Right.
and
Yeah,
and then
that's really
but
funny.
that was so funny by the end of it. He's like, yeah, he said I needed to get my white out ass out of there or he'd cut it. And then everybody just burst out laughing. That
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
best.
right. It was great. Yeah,
That
that
was
was
like
a really fun movie.
that was the
Yeah,
best blooper of all time, I think, in
that
my
was the
opinion.
best one. That was so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah,
It was
yeah, that was
hilarious. And
great.
yeah, I think he passed away in like 1981 or two or something. He was still pretty young, I think he
Yeah,
was in his
he did
50s.
die youngish. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't seen. I know that he was the Pink Panther. He was Doctor. What was it?
Yes. Yeah.
What was it?
Trousseau, Inspector
Trousseau.
Trousseau. Yeah,
Yeah, Clouseau.
yeah. It's
Clouseau. Yeah,
Clouseau.
Clouseau. Something.
Inspector
Yeah,
Clouseau. Yeah, that's right. It's
I.
Clouseau. Yeah, I knew it
Yeah,
wasn't right. Yeah.
it's been a while since I read about it, but I
Or
probably
seen it. I haven't
seen
seen
it.
it probably
Yeah,
since like the 80s or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. One of the
Yeah.
things I wanted to mention because when we were talking at the beginning about uh, what was it called, the defending your life, is that um the woman that played the prosecutor, I think her name was it Lee Grant or something? She
Yes,
was.
that's right. Yes, Lee
Yeah.
Grant.
Yeah, I did not know her daughter was Dinah Manoff. She, because we were talking about Chucky earlier, right? Dinah
Right.
Manoff, that's actually how I discovered her, was through Child's Play 1, and then I realized this Dinah Manoff was also in another movie actually when I was doing when I was like first started acting um back when I was learning acting and the different forms of it. There was a scene I did um from a movie. I'm forgetting the movie, but it's Walter Matthau, I think, was. Or you remember Walter Matthau?
Mental.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
Matthau,
Walter
yeah.
Matthau.
He
Yeah. I
played like
remember him.
Yeah, he played her like estranged father or something, and she was trying to reconnect with him, I guess. She played like a
Sounds
teenager.
familiar. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah,
familiar. I don't remember the name of that movie, but yeah, I think I saw it. Yeah.
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 She was like trying to build up a relationship back with her father in that movie and stuff. But the point is, I had no idea that Lee Grant and Dinah Manoff were related. Like that's her mother. And actually, Lee Grant just last Halloween just turned 100 years old. So
Oh my gosh, she's still alive. Wow, that's
she's still
wild.
alive. And
Wow.
she was like 65 years old in when
I
she
thought she
did.
was a lot younger than
I
that.
thought
That's so
I thought
weird. Yeah.
yeah, I thought she was in her 40s actually, because
Yeah.
I looked it up and it said 100 years old. I was like, wait a second,
Wow.
she was like 3 years older than my grandparents, and
Wow, that's
it's.
weird. I would never have
Yeah.
guessed that. That's
And
wild. That's
and
pretty wild.
she even at 100, she not
Looks
that
good.
looks matter, but she looks vibrant.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. That's
she's
awesome.
still alive, and I guess apparently, like I was reading that because her husband, I forgot her husband's name, but had the last name Manoff. I guess he was either director. He worked in Hollywood himself, and he was blacklisted because of the I think
Oh,
the
wow.
because
Wow.
he was I guess he was what was it
Communist?
communist. It was because of the whole Red Scare communism
Yeah,
thing,
right.
yeah, and Lee Grant was also blacklisted for 12 years as well, so she couldn't
No.
get any
Wow.
acting roles or anything like that. But she apparently did a whole interview on her 100th birthday talking about this situation and
Wow.
everything.
I
And
have to
so
watch for that. That sounds interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I would look it up. It's fun. That I mean, it's interesting that sharing that part of history. Because
Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. So
Well, I
well,
probably should go soon because I have
okay,
to go. My kid's getting up, and I probably
okay,
have to make her some breakfast. But
sounds good. Yeah,
yeah.
I've
But it was
I
really fun talking to you, Elena. It was a
yeah,
really nice conversation about film and intersection between film and spirituality and different psychological things. It was fun. Very nice.
absolutely. And I would love to do this again. Like have you on the podcast or vice versa or something or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Maybe even have a discussion, outside of the podcast on, you know, more of this topic and everything. I'm curious to because I still at some point need to book a reading with you at some point because I haven't done that yet. That's the one thing that I need to do and everything. But yeah, but thank you so much for
You're
coming on
welcome.
here
You're welcome. Yeah, it was
in
great
yeah,
talking to you. Yeah, good getting to know
yeah.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, and you as well. And yeah, and we'll have to plan another one of these again with some topic, intersecting movies, TV and metaphysics and everything. So,
That
yeah.
sounds good. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks everybody for being here too, you guys.
Yeah.
Everyone that showed up. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody that joined and yeah, and yeah, thank you Denise and yeah, I hope you have a lovely day and
You
everything and
too. You
yeah.
too. All right.
All
Have a good
right.
one, Elena. All
You
right.
too.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye.